now being recorded. So this season's webinar is around engineer as an entrepreneur. Something else we do also want to showcase engineers are, and that there's other opportunities available to use and to engineers, especially students and grads, including becoming an engineer and a professional, and which we're there to support you in. But we also want to open up opportunities for you to become an entrepreneur, and that's what this evening's discussions are. From speakers who've been through that cycle of being an engineer and who've gone about set up their own business, and likewise are in the process of doing that. So you'll hopefully get to enjoy and listen to both sides of their stories and their journey. So very welcome once again, and I hope that you enjoy this evening's webinar. Before we get into it, and I'll invite some of our speakers to just some housekeeping and I guess reminders. So this webinar will count towards your CPD, your continuing professional development. So if you're a graduate and you're looking to make sure you maintain your CPD hours, this will count as one of them. And as you can see there from your profile, you can just easily put it into my CPD section and add it there. For students, those who have managed to log in here and join this webinar, not yet members, we very much welcome you, and we would definitely encourage you to avail of our free membership for sure if you're not yet a member. And then for those who are current members and who are going to be soon graduating, you will have then the opportunity to move on to our free graduate membership rate. So definitely encourage you to avail of that opportunity, because once you move on to become a graduate member, you get it's discounted rate. So as you can see there, with savings of over €700. So really encourage you, definitely, if you're finishing up this time of year, obviously wish you all the best luck in the exam, but do make sure you transfer up and to maintain your membership of Engineers Ireland. But without any further ado, I'll first call up our first speaker. I'll just give a brief introduction to them. So this is Chris Berg, is the current CEO and co-founder of Sparks Crowdfunding. So which is I guess innovative company in terms of providing crowdfunding from upcoming small and medium-sized businesses. He is an engineer, or at least did work for a while as an engineer, and he can probably delve into more of that experience or in our chat later on. But he'll definitely share his experience of setting up a company and what it's been like, and where he's at to date. And we very much welcome and love to have Chris to speak to us this evening. So Chris, I'll let you take it away, and I'll stop sharing my screen. So thank you again, Chris, and very welcome.
Great, thank you very much for the introduction, Pierre. And yeah, absolutely, I am an engineer, although don't really practice anymore, but we'll go into that a little bit later, I guess. But I just really wanted to share with you, what crowdfunding is and how we do that. So I guess we'll do that first of all, and then when we do the Q&A later on, or when we do the discussions, I can kind of talk to you about the entrepreneurial side of things. But I guess first of all, thank you very much for having me along. It's been great to be able to tell people about what Spark is all about. So yes, 4 or 5 years ago, I set up Spark Crowdfunding, and it's an equity crowdfunding site. So it's like a Dragon's Den online, and that's what I've said there. And it's where we connect, high growth companies, so companies that have got real scalability with investors, and that's what we do. We just really matchmake between the two. So we democratize that investment opportunity. So normally in the past, it was really only people with a lot of money in their pockets, high net worths, that were able to invest in private companies. So you do it through a number of mechanisms, perhaps through a stockbroker, but this is not, you're not buying shares on the stock exchange, because there's no market for private businesses. So you were buying, you were hearing about an investment, but you had to have 10,000 or 20,000 or 50,000 in order to actually get onto the table, if you like, to get into this mechanism But now, with as little as €100, you can invest in really quite innovative and clever young businesses, and that's what we are there trying to do. So that's what it is. There are different types of crowdfunding though. So there are 4 in total really. You will have come across many of them, but may not know the difference between each one. So I'll quickly describe what they are. So the first of all, there's a donation one. And this is where you donate to a charity or donate to a friend who's running for in a marathon, for example, or doing an Ironman or whatever it happens to be. And you're just giving money across. You're not expecting anything in return. And of course, there are many different types of that. But GoFundMe and Fundit are real examples of that. Where you give a philanthropy or a sponsorship donation across. Then there are reward-based crowdfunding companies where you are actually pre-buying, or the company is pre-selling the new product that they're making. So, for example, if they're developing a new product, a new mousetrap, they want the tooling, and they want all of the elements that are there to create the good supply chain for the assembly and manufacture of their new mousetrap. So they need money in order to actually do that. And so what they do, they pre-sell that product, and they go, okay, well, we're going to make this brand new mousetrap, and we will give it to you if you give us money in advance. And that's what the examples of Kickstarter and Indiegogo are. So you're giving money across, but you're not expecting a reward, a monetary reward. You're expecting the product in return, and that's what the reward-based one is. Then there is a lending, a peer-to-peer debt function. So a peer-to-peer lending, where you actually give money across and you expect that money back with interest, and so that is for a monetary return or for a financial return, and you'd expect to kind of get between 5 and 15% coming back to you on that. And that's great, and it's brilliant that is the situation. But the amount that you get in return is limited, and as I say, the 15% is fairly much the ceiling of what you'll get. But then, of course, this is what we do. We do equity-based crowdfunding. So you are buying a share in this company, and you can expect to get anything from nothing if the company fails, and so you lose everything. But the reward, the risk, there's a big risk reward here. So if the company does well, then you could get, I don't know, 10 times the amount, 100 times the amount. There's no ceiling to what you could actually get, and that's what we do. So we give a share for that investment. So it's, as I said, it's like an online Dragon's Den. You're getting shares for that funding that you do, and it's a marketplace, and that's what we are. We simply facilitate that meetup between investors and investees. So it's easy to apply to the platform. We look at that, and we do a lot of due diligence on the business. We make sure that it's a good company that we think that we would invest in. If it is, and the company is also in agreement to continue, that we start creating a campaign together, and then ultimately, after that campaign is created, we launch it to the world, and we put it out onto our platform and promote it as widely as we possibly can. Hopefully there's a lot of money flowing into that campaign, and ultimately, hopefully it reaches its target. And once it's reached its target, we then go on to the process where we close the round, and we complete the legal work, and we then kind of give the funds across to the investee. And in return for those funds being released to the investee, the investors get a share in that company, and that's what we facilitate. These are just some of the campaigns that we've done, but a good cross section of them. Some B2B, some B2C, as you see. We've done actually more B2B than we have done B2C. And you can see some the type of amounts of money that we raise for these companies. So for MotorMe, which was one we did 2 years ago, I think it was now, we raised 117,000. But the biggest one that we did was a company called ASX, which we raised 2.2 million for in a very short period of time as well. So you have to cut your cloth accordingly to the business size and how much money or how much equity you're willing to give away. But that's the type of the sweet spots, if you like, for what we do, and that's exactly what this slide shows. So our minimum amount that we will raise is 100,000. The biggest one we did was 2.2, as I say, but the median and mean are there in the middle, kind of 500, 360 for those as well, and that's very much a doable amount that we will raise on a regular basis for companies. So what I mentioned before, it democratizes investment. So it's not limited just to large angel syndicates or venture capitalist companies. You can get into a company for as little as €100, and that's what we're trying to facilitate. We just get together a large crowd of people, and all putting in various different amounts. Some people put in €100, some people put in 1,000, some put in 10,000. The single biggest investment that we've received from a single investor is €200,000. So you can see the big difference between the smallest and the largest. But yeah, we've got a lot of people on our database now that are willing and able to put in money into these businesses. It also means that friends and family can invest without the expense of professional fees, at this lower stage as well. And also it formalizes it all for you as well. So if you are an entrepreneur and you're wanting to raise some money, you're not going with your begging bowl to your friends and family asking for money, which is very difficult and not very, it's an uncomfortable situation and dynamic. But now you're going to them with a URL to your crowdfunding campaign, and you're giving them an opportunity to invest into your business, and they'd be daft not to, because your business is the next best thing that's going to be the next unicorn, hopefully, as well. So that you're giving them an opportunity, so they can easily invest and hopefully be part of the tribe that you're building with crowdfunding as well. So anyone can invest from the start, from the ground floor, as I say, from as little as €100. It also, we find as if we're filling a gap between the funding that is available at the moment, or not available, as the case may be. So banks have been very reticent to lend to young startup companies over the last numbers of years, particularly since the crash of 2008 and beyond. So we are there in between. So we're not a VC, we're not a bank, we're not lending actually as such, but we're actually helping that investment. So we like to see that we're actually filling this gap, and it's been very needy as well, very necessary for us to kind of come in to facilitate this as well, because many young good companies were just not getting the funding that they were requiring to actually get off the ground and get to fly. So if you are wanting to ever do a crowdfunding campaign, there are a number of things that you must do in advance. You must get all your due diligence elements in place. So that might be a tax clearance certificate, it might be your CV, it might be updating your LinkedIn profile, but there are other elements as well that we need, kind of the financial statements. We need a good solid business plan. All of those things you can start to get ready in the background before you approach a company like Spark. You need to simplify the message as well. If you are developing a medtech device, and typically you might have gone to a VC, but you'd have gone to a specialist VC that dealt in medtech devices. These medtech VCs, they know the jargon, they know the industry, they know the sector, and so therefore you could actually be quite high level with or detailed level with the amount of information that you're giving to them. With crowdfunding, of course, you're appealing to the general public, and therefore you need to kind of simplify that message to them, but still kind of give a message that is good enough for them to actually invest into the business. So that's what you need to prepare as well. You also need to get other investors around. So it's no good just putting your campaign up onto the Spark site and expecting everything to be there. You'll need to kind of tap on doors and contacts that you already have that might be predisposed to kind of invest in your company as well. And your best place to actually find those, because you know these people, they may have already tapped you on the shoulder saying, if you ever need investment, I'd love to be able to do that. And that's what you need to kind of collate as well. And you need to kind of also create the demand tension. One of the things about crowdfunding is that if you can create that demand tension, it's an element of FOMO. So people go into it and go, oh my God, I don't want to miss out on that one, and that creates a kind of a bit of a snowball effect, and people start to invest into the business a bit more freely as well. So that's something that you need to hopefully create and arrange. But also you're selling the company, not the product. So you need to be careful of how you deliver the story. You're not kind of trying to get them to buy the product that you're making or the service that you're offering. You're trying to sell them the business. So you need to tell them the story of how this is going to kind of grow, how you're going to expand and kind of and scale up in size, to a point where these investors will get a return on their money. So the only return that these investors will get is if you sell the business in future. So you need to demonstrate that this is scalable, and that somebody, whether that be a Google or whether that be a 3M or whether that be a Unilever, doesn't really matter who it will be, but will come in and snap you up and hopefully buy you out for a much bigger sum than you were than you were originally. So that's what you need to do. That's how you need to prepare for this as well. So some success factors in crowdfunding. Well, you absolutely need to have a strong founding team. It's very rare that we kind of invest in just a single person. There's normally one or two co-founders, maybe even three that are there, so that it's not just one person. It's a team that we're investing in as well, or the investors that come onto the platform are investing in. We like to see a good amount of intellectual property in there as well. It's not always necessary, but nevertheless, it certainly is a good strong point that we'd be looking for. I've mentioned scalability. You need to be able to demonstrate that you're scalable. It's we don't have investors that are willing to invest in a corner shop that really won't expand beyond that corner. We need to see that this is at least national and probably international, and so that we can actually show that it's something worthwhile for the investors to invest in. An exit plan. An exit really is a point where somebody buys you out, or you actually float on a stock exchange, an IPO, an initial public offering. So we need to be able to see that there is a route to that. And again, there are many companies that apply to us that don't have that exit plan. But even though you're a very young company, you should actually have an eye on how that might actually happen, how you are going to actually get to grow to a size that will make you attractive enough for somebody to go, okay, listen, I need to buy this company because I need that in my stable, or even perhaps to even take you out of the market because you are a competitor. And that is a very valid mechanism, although many startups don't like that. But I fully understand that you've developed this baby and you want to make sure that it gets up onto its 2 feet and runs and hopefully matures. But sometimes that you might be bought out by a company that will just swallow you up. But anyway, that's just one of those elements. I've put in revenue in parenthesis there. You absolutely, you do not need to be in revenue, but it certainly helps again. So it's nice to know that the investors like to see that there is a route to actually selling this product or service. Without that route clearly defined, it makes it more difficult, and that's why it's easier to demonstrate that if you actually have paying clients. That's why we'd like to see you in revenue. I mentioned kind of the network and contact list that you already have. So develop that network very, very early on. I know you're undergraduates or only just recently graduated, and you already probably have a good network within your peer group from college or from kind of early years of your working life. But getting that network and growing that network, and you'll hear it from dozens of people, in positions like mine, that you do need to grow that network. So do it early and really foster it as well. Really nurture it. It's very good. The last point I've got there is in inverted commas. You need to be investable as well. You need to have a command of your brief. You need to know your business. You need to be able to demonstrate the knowledge over to people who are listening to you do your pitch. And therefore you need to be investable. If you're really don't understand it, you're not confident, then people will just go, oh, maybe not. I'll rather invest in company B rather than this company A here. And because there is a limited funds of people, obviously, and they want to go with the one that they think is the strongest business, and that includes you, the person, as well. A couple of statistics. I should have updated this actually from last month. But anyway, for the last 24 months, we've had 100% success record, apart from one. We had a failure in January this year where we failed to raise the amount of money for for a company. But up until that point, we'd had 100% success record for the last 2 years. So where any company that would come onto our platform, we'd raise the requisite amount of the target, the amount of money, so they could actually go on to complete their fund. So that was a nice statistic that we had, but unfortunately that bubble slightly burst. But listen, our record is still in the high 90s anyway, so that's still something to be very proud of, and we are. So in 2021, we raised 8 million euros for 10 companies. 6 were HPSU. HPSU is an Enterprise Island moniker that they give certain companies. HPSU stands for High Potential Startup, for anybody that didn't know. Of those 10 companies and the 8 million that we raised, or 7.8 million that we raised, that was from over 3,000 investors. So the average investment was just over 3,000 euros. The largest investment in 2021 was 100,000 euros, and the quickest raise that we did was for a company called ASX. So we did two campaigns for ASX. The first campaign, we did it in 28 hours. We raised 632 euros. Sorry, 632,000 euros. Which really was an amazing kind of roller coaster, as you can imagine. A lot of money falling into our escrow account in that time, and the company stopped it after that amount, and then did the second round, and the two together added up to the 2.2 million that I referred to earlier on. So that was ASX, and that was our statistics from last year. So why crowdfunding? It's simple, it's quick, it's low cost. I'm just kind of not thinking I might have overstepped my time here. You get extensive free media exposure, and you build a loyal tribe of supporters. For the investor, again, it's simple and quick. It's zero cost. So you as an investor don't actually pay any money. You actually get 40% back from the government for a nice tax relief if the company is EIS, and most of our companies are EIS. There's no upside cap, so the limit could be, well, there is no limit. You could kind of, if you invest in if you invested in Stripe at very early stage and put I don't know, $1,000 into them, you'd be a very, very, very wealthy person now. And you're supporting young Irish businesses, which is what we're here to do as well. So anyway, I'll wrap up there. But thank you very much for listening. And if we've got any questions, then please share them with me when it's the Q&A session. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much for that, Chris. That was amazing and great to see in terms of, obviously, one thing I guess to highlight, obviously you're entrepreneur yourself, and I guess we'll delve in more in terms of how you came about that. But it's great to see then perfectly is that you're trying to support other startups and entrepreneurs, and it's great to have this kind of a solution, as you pointed out, in terms of where banks or big investments aren't there. You're kind of being able to cover that gap itself. So yeah, really looking forward to delving more into that and learning more about how to make use of Spark crowdfunding. So thank you so much for that.
No problem.
So now I'm going to call up our next speaker, who is, I guess, Chris is, I guess, within an entrepreneur himself. I guess we have one who's still studying and student, but I guess considers herself an entrepreneur in terms of what she started and where I'm sure is soon to go. So Mia, she's currently studying biomedical engineering in Trinity College, and she's heavily involved in many activities within Trinity, and also within Engineers Ireland, being our student ambassador recently appointed. So it's great to have herself supporting us in Engineers Ireland, and obviously joining us and speaking this evening. But a key thing obviously to highlight is, I guess, where she started off last April in setting up and co-founding and being the current CEO of Fiki Labs. I know she'll delve more into the work they're doing in terms of becoming more sustainable and creating carbon negative plastic, which is great. And just note that Fiki Labs are one of our finalists for the Siemens Innovative Student Engineers Award last September in 2021. So definitely anyone who are interested in setting up their own company or working on their project at the moment, do reach out to us. And obviously Mia, I'm sure if you're interested in applying for that also to get some insights. And also she's still involved in entrepreneurial work within Trinity College. So thank you so much, Mia, for joining us this evening, and really looking forward to hearing your journey to date.
Thank you so much, Pierre. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me to the event. It's such a pleasure to talk in front of from a student perspective. What I actually believe is that Q&A will be the best part. So I'll give you as much information about me, my studies, and what I've done, so that you can figure out what was my way and what was my journey, and ask any questions related to any of those. So I'm actually international student at Trinity College Dublin at the moment, as Pierre mentioned, studying biomedical engineering. But I originally came from Serbia. I was active already there in different societies, different groups, organizations, such as European Youth Parliament, Model of United Nations, and something which is completely unrelated to engineering or anything similar to entrepreneurship. But it ended up being really useful. As Chris mentioned a few minutes ago, networking is the most important thing. And that is something that I realized only when I came to college, and when I realized how much does just talking to people and chatting about their interests and what they're doing at the moment actually can influence your way in your career in the future. So when I moved to Ireland, I joined Trinity Entrepreneurial Society. That was my first step into entrepreneurship. I joined it as a first year representative of the society. Later, I joined it as executive ambassador, and this year actually, I joined it as the committee member of the Trinity Entrepreneurial Society. However, I was really active on different fields, so I also joined a few hackathons where I actually met my co-founder, and Matthew and I are actually working on biomed startup idea. Completely went away from it. He proposed that we should potentially apply for a competition. We applied. It was fun, but we didn't really want. It was Trinity Dragons Den. But from there, we understood what we're lacking, what is where we have to work on, what is something which interests us. And that's where actually Tiki Labs came from. It was originally Plalke. So we are producing the carbon negative plastic made out of algae and microalgae, which is completely sustainable and something we really believe which will revolutionize the world of plastic. Therefore, we applied for a Trinity Launchbox. Many of you, I don't know where you're coming from, what are your studies? Are you in Dublin at all, or are you somewhere else in Ireland? But I'm sure there are student programs at your universities. So we applied for Trinity Launchbox program, got the place, got 10K, got support, and what is most important, and that I didn't realize until we actually went into summer 2021, is the mentorship and the connections you are getting as part of Launchbox. And we started our journey. So we started in last summer. So as Pierre mentioned, the idea came around April 2021, started developing it in summer, and got also into a Launchpad program, which is American development startup program, and further developed the company. What I believe is the most important is that you have a good team, and as students, you have great connections and great opportunities to meet people. And I believe my co-founder, Matthew, is one of the best people I can work with. And that was something that got me through a lot, because obviously startups are not something that goes smooth. It's not 100% smooth career that you're going. There are so many ups and downs. There are so many issues. When you go into, I think Chris mentioned IP, when we started going that way, there are so many challenges that you have to overcome and have to figure out who to call, how to approach it. It's just important that you actually have a great team. That summer, we got another engineer on board, Sid. He also joined us for Engineers Ireland competition. Later, we got a chemist. She's computational chemist, Antonia, and she was helping us. Also got the lab in London. So our development of the product really went exponential. And I have to say, it was a lot of luck, but it was also a lot of work. So I'd say the whole idea of stepping into entrepreneurship is just to be brave and to try things and to fail so many times. And I know my fellow cohort from Launchbox last year, like so many people have so many challenges. They went into different industries. It doesn't really matter what is your background, because in the end of the day, you're going to learn so many different things. Some people started learning coding. Some people, like myself, I'm an engineer, start going into chemical industry and something which is not my pure natural stream of my studies. That's something completely new and something which I find really exciting. So I would 100% support anybody who would like to join any of the programs, to just make that little step, apply and try something new. But to talk from another perspective, I joined this year Launchbox team. So I'm actually preparing the program for people who are going to join it in 2022. And we just chose 9 out of 10 teams. We're still waiting for our last team who's going to join. I believe that student programs such as Launchbox, which 100% exist on every other university. I know of a few which are existing in Dublin, but as I said, there are many other parts of the country. There are so many programs which will offer you the opportunity to develop something that you're dreaming of and create that little small steps toward the career you actually want. I believe it's great to be a trained engineer going into engineering field and working in a huge company, but it's so much different when you're the one who's taking care of a little change which will happen in the world. And I might be too optimistic, but I believe like if every single one of us here make that little step, I think we can actually make something much more bigger and much more important than ourselves. So I would 100% say, go reach out to people and try to find a program which will support you, your idea, and something that you believe in, and create something new. That would be it. And I would let Pierre lead the Q&A and ask me any questions you have.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Mia, for sharing that and speaking, I guess, from your experience. And it's great to hear from yourself in terms of your insights and how you went about and you're still going through it. So really looking forward to delving into that deeper with yourself and Chris. So I'm going to call Chris back in, I guess, to this virtual room that we have, and therefore then we can get into the discussions. So obviously, while we're having, I guess I'll have a few questions to I guess throw at you between the two of you to delve more deeper what you've spoken about. But anybody else, please feel free to either throw into the chat, and then obviously I can add to it as we speak along, or obviously I'll make sure to be covered before the end since we have some time. So one question, and I've bring it for the both of you here in different ways. So I guess I'll probably start it for you, Mia. So obviously you mentioned that obviously when you came to Ireland and studied in Trinity, you got involved with the entrepreneurial society. So when did they come to your mind in terms of like, okay, besides me doing engineering and doing biomedical engineering, but I wanted to become an entrepreneur? So where did that kind of thought process, were you inspired by someone or something you saw, or was it just that you just saw engineering, entrepreneurial society, and let's see what happens there?
So yeah, my pathway was quite logical. So my mom was working in mostly in like huge companies and corporations, while my dad actually worked as an entrepreneur since I was 4. So I think that was kind of something that I saw throughout my childhood and something that I wanted to try. And I'd say on one hand, it's good to see that as a kid, because that's not a straight line. Corporate job is something that is going more or less linear, while being an entrepreneur is something really exciting, but something so unstable, which could crash at any point. But I think that's the most exciting thing. That's something that is every single day as an entrepreneur is completely different. Something you're solving, something in finance. I didn't know anything about taxing, for example, like completely unrelated to my field of studies, something completely unrelated to anything I knew before. And then, for example, taxes in Ireland were completely different than taxes in Serbia. Some really basic examples, but I think that's what I find most exciting about being an entrepreneur.
That's fantastic to hear. I'm sure not taking taxes yet. They're not so exciting. Maybe on your side, Chris, because obviously you do a lot on the money side. But yeah, similar enough question. I know before we started this, you shared a bit in terms of you started as a manufacturing engineer, and then you worked in that for a while and in different areas of engineering before you started Spark Crowdfunding. So yeah, similarly, like what made you change from being day-to-day engineering to being like, actually I want to set my own business?
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning, the thought of kind of being responsible for and owning a business and being responsible for a payroll was quite scary. But I really saw I wanted to kind of try something else. And yes, I've been an engineer for many years, loved it, really enjoyed it, and had a really great career traveling the world, and it really kind of opened up many doors for me. But there was a couple of things that didn't really, and as Mia just said, the corporate side of things, yes, it was great and had its advantages, but there was something lacking, and I wanted to kind of try it and see whether I'd be successful or not at doing so. So yeah, I saw, when I say I was an investor, I was a tiny investor, investing tiny, as little as I possibly could, but nevertheless keeping an eye on small young businesses but when I saw the growth of crowdfunding in the US and in the UK, I thought, well, why don't we have it here in Ireland? So I with my co-founder, we put our heads together and kind of dreamt up a new mechanism. It's slightly different to the other crowdfunding mechanisms that exist in the UK and the US. So we have our own spin on it, but as Asbjørn was saying, it is thrilling. It's I skip into work each day. It's great. I love it. It's exciting. It changes every day. There's no 2 days that are the same, and when we're doing some good as well, we're helping young companies grow and kind of get that funding into them, and we are helping both sides. We're helping investors and we're helping investees. So I've really enjoyed the journey into entrepreneurship. And as I say, yeah, it was a bit scary at the beginning, where you're responsible for a number of people's kind of pay salary at the end of the month, but it's again, and we're fortunate enough to kind of be able not to have too many financial worries. Spark is doing well, but nevertheless it's great to be able to actually pay these people at the end of the month and do some good.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear, and it's great that you enjoy the process, and the both of you in that sense. And so actually that brings you on to I guess a follow-on question, and I guess I'll start with you, Chris, because you kind of alluded to it in terms of I guess this would be a nice one, since you're both CEOs. What do you like most about being CEO, and what do you like least? Because I'm sure there's some good and bad. So, like, even though as much you love skipping every day, but I'm sure there's some days you don't want to go in, or you want to avoid that meeting.
I mean, as well as we do, occasionally we will have a disgruntled client of some description, and kind of appeasing those is always difficult. But nevertheless, it's necessary, and we have to do it, and it's kind of part and parcel of the job. Luckily, we don't have to do it very often, but nevertheless, that's, I suppose, a kind of one of the things that's probably not quite as nice. We also have to kind of turn down a lot of businesses. I think I said that we take about 1 in 8 companies that apply to us. So the 7 of those 8 companies, go away from Spark going, oh, didn't quite make it. But we have to be quite brutal about that, because yeah, we do have to look after our investors, and our investors won't come back to us if we start putting up companies that are just not ready yet. So we turn a lot of companies away, and many of the people who are running those businesses are disappointed, and that's never a nice scenario. So I suppose that's a kind of another side of the business which really isn't quite nice. But again, I just refer back to the diversity of what a CEO does, and what a CEO of a young business does in particular, that is so different every day. And that's again, that is the best part of the job. I love it. And of course, and having a successful campaign finish, I guess is a really nice thing. The investees are delighted that they've got the money in. That means that they can grow and kind of prosper now and kind of get onto the next level, and that's a really exciting nice thing to see. So they're the goods and the bads.
No, that's great to hear. And obviously, the success of startups and seeing their journey and how they grow, and hopefully either IPO or get sold for good money and good return. So likewise, Mia, so yeah, obviously you've been CEO for I guess a year or so coming up. I'm sure your celebrations are coming up. So yeah, likewise, is there any aspect of being a CEO of a startup that you like or dislike also?
Yeah, I am a CEO, but I was significantly smaller startup, I'd say. I'd say what I like the most is just to be a part of every single part of our little company. So like to know what each person is doing, like what they're developing, what is going on in each sector. And I think that's something that I love, because I generally love organizing in events and everything else. So it's just like being aware of every single segment that makes the whole machinery work in the end, I'd say. On the other hand, as Chris said, there are also the not such a good side of being a CEO, and that is making a final decision, which is sometimes a bit hard, because there are so many factors that you have to be aware in the end of the day to make the right decision. And the question of being right in the end is really, really hard. But it's also a sort of a responsibility, and trying to learn how to react in stressful situations. And sometimes it's not a situation where I would have enough time to figure out everything what is going on. You just have to make a decision on spot and be responsible and go with it and try to make the best out of the situation you are in at the moment. So yeah.
Yeah, and sticking to Mia and follow up, I guess. So kind of maybe an example, or if kind of any transferable skills that I guess you're using from your as being an engineer at the moment studying, or if there's any kind of specific skills you think as I guess any future and entrepreneurs as engineers should have, or should try and develop in order for them to succeed as an entrepreneur. So yeah, what you kind of are using and what you think is really important to develop those.
Yeah, maybe not 100% a skill, but more of being open-minded, but also being ready to make mistakes along the way. And I think that's really something that they taught us in engineering, that is being open. I will be trained to be a biomedical engineer, but as we talked before, this webinar is actually being open to actually knowing a bit about electrical engineering, a bit about computer engineering, a bit about mechanical engineering, and to combine all of those things. I think that is actually what is the most important, just to be open to learn a new skill every single day, and to be ready to make mistakes along the way, and don't take them so seriously, because you'll still get a way to improve them and to make everything work in the end of the day.
Yeah, no, that's great insight and great advice. Likewise, Chris, I know you kind of raised in terms of there's some things you need to be like a investor ready for and crowdfunding, and in order to have the most return. But even likewise, in addition, how any skills you think for any entrepreneur for them to succeed. you would advise?
Yeah, I mean, an engineer is, very much science-based, and they take the information in, process it, and kind of decide which is the best way to go, and that's a very key element. Organization as well, kind of just making sure that you are organized. I mean, as a CEO, you've got many plates spinning, and therefore you need to be able to kind of process these, efficiently without having to run, between kind of many things and only do half-baked responses. So you need to be kind of fairly efficient. But no, the processing of the data, I think, is really strong now, and that's required. So you're getting in loads and loads of inputs as to how successful this is, or how unsuccessful something is as well. And you need to be able to kind of go, okay, rationalize that, and then kind of come up with a plan to strategize out of that situation, or to improve that situation in some way. So yeah, processing the data that is being fed into you, and distilling it down into the component parts so that you can make a clear decision from that. I think that's a very clear link from engineering into entrepreneurship, I think.
Yeah, well, not very true. And yeah, there's always the knowledge that the engineers build up, and the skill set is so transferable in any aspect, and even much so as an entrepreneur. So I guess a fun one for you again, back to you, Chris. So if I was a student, an engineer, and I had an idea, and I was still studying, would you advise that I quit the engineering and pursue the idea, or do you think I should balance like Mia is doing, obviously continuing to study and doing the idea? I guess even putting yourself back in when you started college, and if you had come up with sparks, what would you have done? That left college and pursued it?
I mean, there are many examples of people who have left study. I mean, the one that springs to mind is Richard Branson, who kind of never went to college, but obviously is a hugely successful businessman. And there are hundreds more, and I'm sure you could go back through Zuckerberg and I can't remember. Did Elon Musk kind of graduate? I don't know, I can't remember, but anyway, there are hundreds of these that have done really well by leaving college and following their passion. But no, I wouldn't. I mean, you do need a grounding. You do need to, I mean, there are, for every Elon Musk or Richard Branson, there are thousands who've left college, started what they thought was going to be the next big thing, and it failed and fell around their ears, and then they didn't finish their studies, they didn't become the engineer, they didn't become the lawyer, or whatever it happened to be, and as such kind of, I'm sure, suffered because of it. So yes, because there are some notable successes, a successful business empire, even without having gone through college. There are many more, I'm sure, that have failed and didn't become successful. So no, absolutely continue your studies, go through to the end, at least get the certificate saying that you are an engineer at the end of the process, and use those skills that you've learned through that degree and even postgraduate degree as well, if necessary, to use those skills to kind of create the business and create a stronger business because of that. So no, I would definitely not suggest that you do leave college to follow your dream. Complete the college degree and then follow your dream with that entrepreneurial, because and many people have said this before, oh, I wish I'd started it earlier. And for me, absolutely, I wish I'd started entrepreneurial. Mia is very lucky. She's started at such a young age, where I was very wizened and old before I started it. But I really wish I'd done it 20 years before, or even 30 years before even. So now I'm 55, and to do it at 25, oh, that would have been amazing, and what a journey that would have been. So I'm very jealous of Mia starting at such an early stage. I didn't have an entrepreneurial father or mother, so my mother and father were very much kind of corporate people, and that was how I was brought up. But I'm hoping that my daughters, who are about to go into college, will follow the exciting entrepreneurial side thing. But I would absolutely tell them to finish their studies beforehand.
Perfect. Thanks. That's a great answer, because I know my colleague mentioned a controversial question, so I probably could get in trouble by advocating that engineers now drop college and go and set up a business. But no, you point out that it's good to have that foundation, and and even as a backup, if anything weren't successful, that you still can go back and be an engineer, and then maybe try again later down the road. So no, thanks, fantastic. So I guess, Mia, then the question to you in terms, like, obviously, yeah, you started Fiki Labs last year, and it's still going. Did any thought go into your mind that actually, I'm going to drop biomedical engineering and focus full time on this idea and go all out? Or yeah, did that ever come to mind for you?
Absolutely not. I believe in the same thing as Chris. I don't, it is not important in the end of the day what is your degree as an entrepreneur. Obviously, nobody's going to ask you for a diploma after you graduate if you have your own company, right? But I believe that is a good psychological base for you, that you know that you always can come back to that and be 100% sure that even if everything fails in the end of the day, you can go there and be an engineer and work and develop that career. And it just gives you additional power and additional strength and just the courage to do maybe even more exciting things in your startup. So no, I don't think it's the right choice to drop at any point. It is a bit difficult to do time management and to be everywhere and to organize everything. But I would come back to the comment that Chris made, and that is everything is about the organization, and it's everything about you having set up your Google Calendar or whatever you use for your organization, and just knew, okay, I will be there at 9, I will be there at 12, I will be there at 3. But if you do that right, I think there is no issue with doing the parallel degree and doing a startup. At some points, it might be, for example, when it's like exam season, all of us are in exams, studying or whatever, it is 100% reasonable to say, okay, these 2 weeks we will maybe work a bit less, but it's all about the organization, how you put things down. So yeah, but I wouldn't support dropping college, that's for sure.
That's great. That's great to hear, and it's also good to share that advice in terms of organization. I'm sure you're top of that in terms of everything that you're involved in. So I'm sure your Google Calendar or whatever calendar you use is color coded and matched to where you need to be and what you need to do, and obviously checklist. I guess almost following on from that. So obviously, if you ask you and me in terms of if I've gotten the idea, I'm not chosen, I'm not going to drop out. But actually, I think Chris did drop out though, as I just mentioned that. So hopefully
that's okay. That's a fair response.
Yeah, hopefully you'll be able to drop back in. Yes, yeah, he will.
Back, yeah.
That's great. It's just as I mentioned, dropping out, you drop out, but it's great to have you back. So yeah, I was saying, yeah, me in terms of if I come up with the idea and yeah, I'm not going to leave college, but I'm going to continue it. But in terms of obviously this idea, I need other people's help. And probably build a team. So I know you alluded to how you went about or you built your team for Fiki Labs. Likewise, any advice on someone who has an idea but needs some support and help in building a team to progress that?
I'd say definitely reach out to the program manager of a relevant program such as Launchbox. I think that's a great first step. I know it's a scary first step, but I was lucky in that sense that I did hackathon, I met Matthew, and we went that way. So we were both interested in entrepreneurship. We knew we wanted something to make something. We're lucky to have more or less same interests, but to be also like a bit different in the way how we are working, but to actually create a great team. But it's always about the network in the end of the day, and just about how easy you can reach out to people. If it's college, if it's crowdfunding, if it's anything else, it's just how confident you come to them and say, yes, I have this idea and I think it's worth a shot and worth developing. And if you come with that attitude, I am 100% sure that you will have the necessary support. Engineers Ireland 100% can support you as well. There are so many other programs in Ireland and around the world that you can apply to and will 100% get the great mentorship and great connections and will ensure that the idea succeeds. Another thing which I believe is worth mentioning is that actually our chemists I met her through another friend who's doing the Organization of Serbian Students Abroad, completely unrelated thing, but we were in a bar talking about, oh, I have a startup, we're just starting, we don't have a chemist. And he said, oh, I actually know one girl who's coming from Greece, and she's doing computational chemistry. Maybe you can chat to her. I don't know, maybe she would be a useful person to like help you up with that segment. And that's how we got Antonia on our team. But it's always about who you know. It is a bit of a luck that it's the right moment when you talk about it, but the more you talk with people and the more you put your startup as something that is important for you, the more people will actually help you out and just introduce you to different people, which will further help you throughout this journey.
Yeah, all about networking, and yeah, and hopefully find people that who are inspired, or on the same page, and yeah, interested in starting up a business together. So likewise, I guess to yourself, Chris, in terms of, obviously you mentioned obviously in terms of crowdfunding, is that for investors, you're not selling the product, you're selling the company or the people. So obviously then for a person starting up, how they build and like that, build a team that's sellable and you can work together for you to scale a business or work at any advice like that.
It's tough. I mean, you do have to kind of work out who you can work with and how that team's going to be presented. It almost certainly won't be your best friend, and but it might be. But nevertheless, that's the. But no, you need to kind of bring in people who with different skill sets, obviously to your own, and with that you then become an investable team. It's no good just having engineers. You need an engineer, and you need a marketeer, and you need a financial person. You need so you need to build these people up around you. They might not all be the actual owners in the business, but nevertheless, bringing that team together is very important, and constructing something that is, as I say, investable. So the investors like to see a rounded team. It's not just kind of one type of individual in there. So that's what I would suggest that you do. It's not easy to do. You'll have to kind of find people that you can work with that have the right skill set. You might not be able to afford if you're paying them as opposed to giving them equity. You have to kind of find the right level of amount that you can afford at that particular time. So you're never going to get the top CEO of the CFO, for example. You'll have to kind of get somebody but who's young and eager to learn and willing to kind of put in the hard hours as well.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, you just have to find people who are willing to put in the work and develop and learn as you do. And I guess sometimes, I'm sure, even as CEOs, you have to become do a bit of marketing, do a bit of finance, and cover the gaps here and there.
Absolutely,
that your team can cover. So yeah, just before we finish, obviously, if anybody does want to ask any questions to our speakers before we finish, here's your opportunity now.